We welcome this morning to our viewers on YouTube. This service is from Eastminster United Church in Belleville, Ontario, Canada, July 3rd, 2016. And we're pleased to have you join us. And my name is Magarrell, one of the past ministers of this congregation. And these are the people of our church. Welcome. We're glad to have you with us. Well, one of the joys I have found in preaching here in Eastminster United Church is to stand in this pulpit where so many fine ministers and laypersons have read the scriptures, led in prayer, and proclaimed the gospel of Christ in this sanctuary and over the internet. My 3 years of team ministry here remain for me a wonderful memory of time shared together in good times and bad, in joy and in loss. It's always an enormous privilege to be here with you, as it is this Sunday. And I'll be with you as well on July 17th and July 24th. 2 days ago, we Canadians celebrated the establishment of Canada as a nation from sea to sea to sea. And next year will be our 150th year. And what a joy it should be for all of us to join as citizens, new and old, to thank God for our good fortune. We'll remember all of those who have gone before us, who forged this dream of a united Canada, who struggled together in times of peace, war, famine, and prosperity. And we'll all remember with gratitude that somewhere along the line, one of our ancestors came and dared to be in this, what was then often a very tough land. Tomorrow, our American brothers and sisters will celebrate their Independence Day. They'll consider again their remarkable journey through civil war to remain together as a nation, one people. They'll view the future, as we all do, with a great deal of trepidation in a world of uncertainty, polarization, and disconnect, which shows itself through the intolerance of newcomers and the lack of many basic human needs of people for freedom from poverty and availability to accessible housing and health care. Both of us have those issues, but we celebrate. Both our nations were created by men and women who were unafraid to use the name of God in their declarations, anthems, and in their symbols. Though they differed often as to the some of the finer points of the church structure, the interpretations, the order of clergy, they were for the most part seized with the strong belief that God had blessed them with these lands and was the almighty power before whom they were standing and who they were gathering together to frame the documents of independence, the design of governance, and the right of human beings as they deemed them to be at that time. So as we look back in both countries to our initial statesmen, it's so easy for us, using hindsight, to pick holes on our founders as human beings, and thus miss the wonder of what they dreamed was possible in this place. Many of the founders in the United States were slave owners, and yet they created documents which in time would allow for the times to be different and slavery abolished. Closer to home, personally, I'm dismayed reading letters to the editor in local papers in Hastings and Prince Edward County, which dwell on the personal shortcomings of our founding Prime Minister, Sir John A. Macdonald. He was a man of his time, and perhaps he drank more than he should have by our standards today. But look at his dream. Think of that dream. It was audacious, and it was totally unobtainable, according to all of his critics. Yet he dreamed big of a country tied together from east to west by rail, even before they had discovered the passage through the mountains to the Pacific coast. You only have to travel by rail to the Pacific by train today to grasp the giant gamble that he made. Even more astounding, I think, in many ways, are the huge Canadian Pacific hotels across the West, built soon thereafter. It was part of his belief that if you build them, people will come. If you build them, people will come. An audacious dream, one that we need to honor. Therefore, do we write off people, including our politicians, leaders, clergy who lived long before our time, just because they had weaknesses according to our standards? I'm talking about personality weaknesses, not some of the obvious issues that are out there today. We need to remind ourselves that celebration of accomplishments of one another is still a worthy thing, and that none of us is blameless before God. Dreams still count in our world, as we know only too well. I titled this homily for today with these words: Being Christian in an Uninterested World. Being Christian in an uninterested world. And I say these words not as a pessimist, but as an optimist, a believer in the possible rather than the impossible. I'm not speaking as a Pollyanna, though many people accuse me of being one. Rather, I'm optimistic about the future for men and women, and for our Christian faith, even in a world that does not want nor feels the need to hear our story of our faith journey. Today, we are rightly aware of the value of different cultures and faiths. Tolerance is always key in a just and peaceful society, and it behooves us to live and to let live. But it does not stop us from speaking of that which motivates us and has given us comfort and joy. There's a rise of fundamental radicalism in all major faiths: Muslim, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity included. Christianity is no stranger to this fundamentalist radicalism either. Ecumenical activities and cooperation today are harder to achieve within each faith, let alone between faiths. Yet we struggle on to do so. So why do we bother if so many today have no real belief or any faith in a creative power, whatever we call it, which influences our lives and encourages and enriches our human experience? It's so easy to be discouraged as a believer of God. More and more of the people with whom we associate and family members far and wide no longer see any place for a faith other than being people of kindness and loving concern, believing all that is important is love. And love is very key fundamental to everything that is done in this world and is the building block. But it's not all there is. When we say our friends or our kids are great examples of loving and caring human beings, we can and do rejoice. This assumes it's all that matters, and maybe it is. But Luke, in the scripture passage this morning, speaks to the act of witnessing to the faith we've discovered in and through Jesus. Luke encourages his readers, when they are in the act of witnessing to another about their faith, to take time with people so that their questions can be answered and your own faith be tested, to see as authentic. In a sense, Luke speaks of a faith that will be authenticated by the speaker, or the seeker rather, in what they see in us. This is good news for all of us, as we so rarely feel our words are adequate, and they're not. The old adage, seeing is believing, is potent always. It does not say where hearing a witness is of itself complete. Rather, it's more the power of feeling, witnessing to our faith to another human being. And that faith doesn't have to be in words. It's our sense of what is it that motivates us? Why is it that we are who we are? One-to-one faith learnings occur through our very act of being there and being open to sharing our life and faith story, and even more so to listen to theirs. To me, this is great news for the time in which we live. Faith still can be and is caught, not just taught. Now let us imagine the days of the first century after the ministry of Jesus. It was neither a career-enhancing nor safe. Not the time to become a follower of this man Jesus and the God he proclaimed. How could you be convinced it was important or exciting to be a follower of the way, as it was called by many? It was dangerous to proclaim what you know. Much the same question today. Why bother? What's in it for me? I think we ask in our usual 21st century parlance. For many of us, we want to be in the mainstream of culture of our times with our friends, acquaintances, and family. It's no longer the activity of the majority of people to attend a place of faith or to belong to a congregation. Sundays are anything but a day of rest for our families today, or our neighbors. Kids' activities, housework to catch up with, weekend work, all a part of our world, and it's not going to change. And so, with so few active in faith communities, we wonder, why do we bother when the world around us appears indifferent? Or we see on TV so-called religious people causing such pain and misery by their bombs and fanaticism. Maybe, just maybe, the world would be better off without religious folk at all. But I think we are fortunate people to have faith in the power of goodness. The goodness we glimpse in Jesus and so many others, such as Nelson Mandela and Mother Teresa. We believe lives are changed when the Spirit of Christ comes into the heart. We believe that forgiveness of one another leads to healing of body and soul and mind. And we're not the only ones who believe that, but that is an integral part of our faith. We understand why people want to gather together to take time to be refreshed and reminded again of the value of living a generous life among other people. For many of us, when we sing, pray, and share in the breaking of bread together, it encourages us, it strengthens us to continue in our sharing and caring of one another, reaching out to the refugee, the homeless, and the forgotten. And certainly we know we're not the only ones that do that. I guess what I'm saying is that it is more than a feeling good when we gather together sharing our faith and our burdens, our joys, and our sorrows. We gather in small groups. We worship in our church to be inspired to continue on our faith discovery journey. It helps us to be brave enough to tell our discovery of the Creator in our life. That Creator, what name we have and how we define it in our life, to another seeker. We may be different than the majority of people today in our country, but we need to be prepared to risk being different. Are we different, really? I don't know. We have a retired ministers group, and one of our major discussions is about the future of the church. And there are differences of opinion because, frankly, we don't know. But there is a sense in which there is a creative spirit that touches us. And for many of us, we want to get together and share with one another about that and to pray. I just celebrated at Bridge Street United 3 weeks ago the 50th anniversary of my ordination as a minister in the United Church of Canada. On June the 8th, 1966, in Winnipeg, I was set on a road to a great adventure. I know that my faith grew and strengthened over the years as I met and shared with so many people in Canada and across the world. As I heard their stories, their hopes, and their dreams, in spite of circumstances often of their life which were painful and limiting, one could not help but feel the remarkable tenacity and faith of people. These people in turn listened to my faith adventure. One human heart reaching out to another remains a powerful act, and new possibilities emerge for action and for change. In spite of all we hear, I think there's still a role for the church and a role for us within the church, even if the world appears indifferent and even hostile. I, for one, am not afraid the Christian church will disappear. It may be smaller. It may look different. It talks in the Old Testament being the salt, the leaven. It may look different, but its vital message will continue to resonate in the hearts, mind, and actions of countless across the globe. But we need not be discouraged. We need not be frightened, for we believe that the Spirit of God is with us. We can celebrate all those who in faith walked before us here and in other places in our life. In their time, they tried to be faithful to the message of Christ, and now it's our time. We too can move forward confidently. Things can change as circumstances change. But through it all, we'll walk together as followers of Christ into a future we do not yet see. We probably can't even imagine. But there's one thing we do know. As our Creed says we are not alone. Thanks be to God. Amen.